Every culture on Earth speaks of a war among the gods, a cosmic rebellion that split heaven itself. In Sumer, they called it the conflict of the Anunnaki. In India, the war of the Devas and Asuras. In Greece, the Titanomachy. In Egypt, the war of Horus and Set. The gods were almost never united. They were at war. Texts speak of weapons of terror, instruments that burned mountains and evaporated rivers. In the Lament for Ur, we read, "The storm's roar was like a dragon. The cities melted like wax." The same imagery repeats in the Mahabharata. Weapons of fire, brilliant as 1,000 suns, raining down upon armies of gods and men. In India, the Asuras fell from the sky after their defeat. In Sumer, the fallen gods were exiled to the underworld. In Greece, the Titans were cast into Tartarus. In the Hittite archives, the old gods, identical to the Anunnaki, are said to dwell beneath the earth, still alive, still watching. When the flood came, the reset, both sides lost their empires, but the survivors carried their banners to new lands. Enki's line became the Serpent Kings, the Naga, the Quetzalcoatl, the Dragon Lords of China. Enlil's line became the storm gods, Zeus, Indra, Yahweh. Every later pantheon is a memory of that original schism. The Book of Enoch describes 200 beings landing on Mount Hermon, teaching metalwork, enchantments, and astronomy. Those were not angels. They were remnants of Enki's faction, engineers and scientists who broke divine law by giving humans knowledge. The church would later call this heresy. Ancient Egypt encodes the same war. Horus, the falcon god, fights Set, the Red One, Lord of Chaos. Horus loses an eye, Set loses his manhood. Order and chaos, light and darkness, locked in balance. In the pyramid texts, the gods lament. The children of the sky fight among themselves. Their roar shakes the foundations of the world. Could this be a poetic echo of the same conflict remembered in Sumer in India? A war that began off-world and ended beneath the sea? One side sought to free humanity. The other sought to rule it. And when the smoke cleared, the victors rewrote the story, turning rebels into devils and conquerors into gods. Just south of India, there is an island, a place where gods once walked the earth, Sri Lanka, covered in jungles, mountains, and something else. A giant stone rising 650 feet into the sky, its top cut perfectly flat, as if shaped by a machine. Sigiriya, a fortress. The locals call it the Palace of the Gods, built by Ravana, the Asura king who ruled before the flood. Ancient Hindu texts talk about beings who came from the sky, the Devas and Asuras, locked in an eternal war. The Ramayana tells of the god Rama crossing the sea to battle Ravana, the Asura king who ruled from his sky palace in Lanka. Sigiriya just might hold proof of those legends. Modern archaeologists claim Sigiriya was built in the 5th century AD by a king named Kashyapa. Local stories say the site was ancient even then, the last remnant of Ravana's celestial kingdom, a city built by beings who came from the stars. Legend says Kashyapa murdered his father, seized the throne, and built his fortress atop the great rock to protect himself from vengeance. How did a 5th century monarch, armed with primitive tools, haul 3 million bricks and tons of marble up this sheer monolith, with no stairway, no ramp, and no machinery? Even with modern stairs installed, the climb takes nearly 2 hours. How did the ancient builders raise this city to the sky? Some say Kashyapa didn't build Sigiriya. He simply found it, an abandoned outpost from an age before recorded history. Hydraulic systems feed fountains that still work today. Canals, dams, and subterranean pumps deliver water even during the dry season. On the summit, an enormous granite water tank appears carved directly into the bedrock, 90 feet long, 70 wide. No tool marks, no chiseling, only smooth, scoop-like grooves, identical to those seen in ancient sites of Egypt and Peru. Did the builders possess a form of sound or vibration technology that softened stone, a lost science once known to the gods? Along the sides of Sigiriya, narrow grooves and circular drill holes pierce the rock. Some burrow deep, with precision that modern stonecutters struggle to explain. If these were carved with bronze chisels, we'd see hammer scars. We don't. Instead, the marks look melted, as though the stone had liquefied and cooled again. Were these traces left by tools of extreme heat? Plasma, sonic resonance, or something else entirely? The same mystery technology that shaped the granite pools of Abydos, or the polygonal walls of Cusco? Could Sigiriya belong to that same prehistoric network, a global civilization erased by cataclysm? Legends from Sri Lanka name Sigiriya as Ravana's palace, the throne of an Asura god. Ravana, ruler of Lanka, master of flight, 10-headed and mighty. He was said to have green skin, scales, and eyes like fire. Ancient texts like the Ramakien describe him as reptilian, a naga, a hybrid being, born of an Asura father and a mother not of this world. Was Ravana one of the reptilian gods mentioned in Hindu and Sumerian lore alike, the same race the Hebrews called the Nephilim? At the entrance to Sigiriya, 2 giant feet guard the gate. Archaeologists call them lion's claws, yet lions have 4 toes, not 3. These are 3-toed talons. Could they depict Ravana himself, or the ancient reptilian beings the locals still call the Naga? According to the Vedas, the Asuras possessed flying craft called Vimanas, ships that could traverse the heavens and strike with beams of fire. The Mahabharata describes aerial cities belonging to the Asura race. Could Sigiriya have been one of those cities, a high-altitude command post rebuilt after the deluge? The mountain's perfect flat top could have served as a landing pad for Vimanas, much like the megalithic platforms of Baalbek. Without stairways or ramps, access would have come only from the sky. The evidence of extreme age, advanced construction, and the myths of god-kings all point to one possibility. Sigiriya predates every known culture of the region. The Buddhist monks found it and built around it. Kashyapa reoccupied it, its origins stretching back to the world before the flood, the world of the Anunnaki. Across the planet we find this same pattern: impossibly carved stones, advanced hydraulics, and myths of gods descending from the heavens. Fragments of the same story, scattered after a global reset. Did King Kashyapa build Sigiriya? Or did he merely inherit a relic of a civilization that came before the flood? A fortress once ruled by beings who fell from the stars. The myths say the Asura were destroyed, banished after the great war between gods and men. But myths also say they were immortal. You can't destroy what isn't bound by time. You can only force it underground, or make humanity forget. Across India and Sri Lanka, the legends speak of the Naga, serpent beings said to have retreated into subterranean realms after the floods. In Sanskrit, Naga doesn't just mean snake. It means those who move unseen. Some texts say they dwell beneath rivers, mountains, and oceans, guarding forbidden knowledge until the next age of man. In Tamil epics, Ravana was called a hybrid king, born of 2 bloodlines, one human, one not. His skin said to shimmer like scales in sunlight. His voice, deep enough to shake the air. A being who could shift shape and command flight. And even after his fall, the texts promise his return. Look closer at what happens every time civilization resets. New gods emerge, new rulers claim divine ancestry, and the serpent symbol always returns. The idea of an ancient reptilian race sounds absurd, until you realize the oldest cultures on Earth all warned about them, and all described them the same way. Across the world, the same beings appear under different names: the Anunnaki of Sumer, the Watchers of Enoch, the Neteru of Egypt, the Serpent Kings of Mesoamerica. Different lands, different eras, one bloodline. The Mayans called them Kukulkan. The Aztecs knew him as Quetzalcoatl. The Egyptians called him Thoth, or Atum, the Serpent of Rebirth. The Chinese still speak of Long, the dragon kings who came from the stars to teach civilization. The Nagas were said to live beneath sacred mountains, guardians of hidden technology. In Sumer, the Apkallu were 7 sages sent to restore civilization after the flood. In Greece, Cecrops, founder of Athens, was half human, half serpent. In Mesoamerica, the Olmecs built colossal heads with distinctly non-native features, elongated skulls and serpent motifs, the same hybrid legacy. When the flood came, whether it was 12,000 years ago or earlier, their empires fell beneath the sea. Lemuria, Atlantis, Kumarikandam. But their survivors scattered, merging with humans, seeding new civilizations. We find it in medicine, religion, government, and corporate emblems, the same iconography. If the War of the Gods was real, it had to leave scars, and across the planet, we find them. In the Indus Valley, archaeologists uncovered a city frozen in panic, Mohenjo-Daro. Streets littered with skeletons, bodies fused to the ground, their bones still carrying abnormal radiation. Surrounding walls and pottery show signs of vitrification, stone melted as if by a flash, hotter than any natural fire. Half a world away, in the Jordan Valley, another city met the same fate. Excavations at Tol El Hammam, often identified with the biblical Sodom, revealed shocked quartz, trinitite-like glass, and a destruction layer 5 feet thick. The soil was cooked to over 2,000 degrees Celsius. The pattern matches neither volcanic activity nor conventional warfare. In northern Scotland, ancient hill forts stand as blackened husks, granite fused into liquid glass. Local lore calls them the forts the gods set aflame. The oldest stories of divine conflict survive only because a few scribes dared to copy them, usually at the edge of collapse. And in Death Valley, Nevada, desert glass stretches for miles, chemically identical to post-nuclear melt. The Enuma Elish, describing Marduk's battle with Tiamat, is itself a copy. The originals, older, written in Sumerian, were already gone. When the library of Ashurbanipal burned in 612 BCE, 30,000 tablets turned to ash. Among them, texts said to detail the wars of heaven. Greek historians wrote that beneath the library of Alexandria stood a second vault, the Serapeum, built of fireproof stone. Inside, they said, were scrolls of the elder gods, sealed away after the flood. The vault exists, the scrolls do not. What survives are fragments, enough to hint at a truth, never enough to prove it. As if someone, or something, wanted the memory of that war erased. Every war leaves behind its weapons. The question is whether we still possess one. In Heliopolis, Egypt, priests guarded the Benben stone, a conical object said to have fallen from heaven, glowing with light. It sat atop the first pyramid, source of the pharaoh's authority. In Arabia, pilgrims circle a relic called Al-Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone of Mecca. Islamic tradition calls it meteoric, but its exact composition remains unknown. Samples are forbidden. In India, the Syamantaka gem of Krishna, in Tibet, the Chintamani stone, in Mesoamerica, the heart of the sun, all describe a luminous fragment that grants divine power, fallen from the sky during the wars of the gods. Could these be scattered pieces of the same artifact, the energy core, command node, or weapon that ended the last age? If so, it explains why each culture treats its fragment as sacred, untouchable, and sealed from public study. The gods may have vanished, but their arsenal didn't. It was buried, enshrined, and mythologized, until only pilgrims and priests were allowed to see it. Extraterrestrial beings are real. They have been here before, and they will be here again. They live on timelines so vast we can't comprehend them. There are beings in our universe who can live for 50,000 of our years, some even longer. They've watched these universal pulses happen again and again. They've seen stars born and die and be reborn in the same pattern we repeat as souls. We live maybe 80 years if we're lucky, and in that tiny blink we forget everything. Every life, every era, every visitation. Amnesia is part of the design. The Anunnaki weren't spirits made of light. They were biological beings. Flesh, blood, bone. They breathed, bled, and died like we do. But they lived longer, thousands of our years, because their biology came from elsewhere, from a world where time and gravity move differently. They arrived here long before the Sumerians, maybe hundreds of thousands of years before any civilization we've uncovered. By the time humans were scrawling symbols on cave walls, the memory of those beings was already ancient history. Sitchin wasn't wrong to call them those who from heaven to earth came. He was wrong about the timing. These weren't visitors to the Bronze Age. They were here during the Paleolithic. They came in ships, metallic, real, tangible. But to early humans, their technology would have appeared like pure magic. A craft descending from the sky. Fire, thunder, figures emerging in radiant suits. To a creature just learning language, that was God. They manipulated genes, whether through science or instinct, and accelerated evolution itself. The leap between primitive hominids and modern humans isn't gradual, it's abrupt. That's the missing link. We didn't evolve by chance, we were intervened with. But something went wrong. Maybe rebellion, maybe ethics, maybe exhaustion. But they left. Some stayed behind, stranded or abandoned. Others were remembered as gods, angels, demons, or titans. And when the flood came, the event remembered in every ancient culture, their civilizations were buried, their machines lost, and humanity reset. By the time Sumer rose, the stories of these beings had already begun to fossilize. This is the birth of all Earth religion. The Sumerians never saw the Anunnaki. They only remembered them. And the reason the myths from every corner of the world sound the same sky gods, the same flood, the same genetic creation stories, is because every one of those cultures carried fragments of the same memory, the time the gods were flesh.